Hi everyone, hope you're all doing great. Today I am very happy to be doing this interview from Merida, the capital city of the state of Yucatan in Mexico. It's a great place with a great culture and great history. The Mayans lived in these regions. And I'm also extremely happy to be joined today with Emma Doyle. For those of you who do not know Emma, she is a great high performance coach from Australia, but she is also a mentor and a renowned speaker because she has many years of experience and because she is an expert in kinesthetic learning. Now, for those of you who do not know what kinesthetic learning is, well, that is what Emma will be talking to us about today. So, without further ado, Emma, thank you so much for being with us today, and let's get started.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I have to say that my godparents live in Monterrey, Mexico, and they took me out to this restaurant once before I had my chili training, and I had this bite of this meal, and my mouth was on fire. So, how do you go with hot food, mate? Do you like it or what?
Oh yeah,
You
really,
love it?
yeah, my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. So I need some more training in my I call it my chili training. I give myself just a little bit of extra spice every day. So one day I'll be able to come back and handle the beautiful Mexican food, which I love too. So that's awesome.
So, with the first question that we have, as you know, the Little Mo Club is composed by young tennis players from around the world who are in the process of learning tennis. So, please tell us, what is kinesthetic learning and why is it important for kids of all ages?
Yeah, would love to. So what is kinesthetic learning? So if we just take the word kinesthetic, and we break that down, all it means is that you learn best by feel. So you essentially, rather than someone telling you how to do a skill, such as turn your shoulders or turn your racket back or etc., you're just given a task. So, for example, I want you to hit the ball past the service line, and you need to feel how much follow through you need to get the ball past the service line. So it's learn by doing. So learn by doing and learn by feel. So that's what is kinesthetic. And then learning, of course, is what you experience. So if I give you a task like hit the ball past the service line, you're going to feel what you need to do rather than me saying follow through or brush up or hit it higher over the net. I call that, when the coach just talks way too much, right? Sometimes kids don't even need the coach to say that, and they can feel the difference past the service line, which is the learning part of it. So kinesthetic learning, and that's one of the four ways that people learn best. And for kids, especially for kids, visual and kinesthetic are the highest ways that people learn and kids learn. So really, really important that we understand how kids learn, and that we, and not just kids, and of all ages, we understand how people learn. Because when I was a young coach, Mateus, I used to just coach the way that I was taught. So I didn't really have enough skills, and I didn't understand that people learn through these four different modes. So visual, so seeing, learn best through seeing. Kinesthetic, which we just went over, so learn best by doing and by feel. Then you've got auditory, so learn best by hearing. And then the final one, people are less familiar with, it's called auditory digital. And these people learn best by having a process of information. So they need A, B, C, D, E, F to really understand the steps and the logical process for them to be able to put the parts together. For example, serve wide, hit open court, look for your short ball, come in and pop off a volley, right? So, so they're the four different ways, and understanding that as coaches and understanding that as a player, if you know how you learn best, imagine you going up to the coach and saying, "Hey, coach, this is how I learn best." I mean, do you reckon that would be pretty cool? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think trying all these different, all those ways and seeing which one works better, like trying to see if I'm more visual or if I'm more kinesthetic would be.
Do you know how you learn best?
I think if I had to take a wild guess, probably it would be it'd be either kinesthetic or it would be visual. I think that would
Right.
probably be the best for me.
So that's very, very common, especially for tennis players. Okay. And yet it's still amazes me how, when I first started coaching, there was more experienced older coach. He's a great coach and he coached a Wimbledon champion, Aussie guy. And I would get the kids all warmed up and, like a 12 and under squad, and the girls would be there. They'd be ready to go. And then this coach would stand up and tell what I call a war story. So, and it was a really great story, but the story went for 20 minutes. So the players who were really warmed up and ready to go and just wanted to get into it they were cool. Then they cool down and then you miss that moment. And I think kids of today, I know a lot of coaches talk to me about behavioral issues, right? And so you'll see a lot of kids, like they're bouncing the ball, they're tapping the ball down, tap, 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 tap. And the coach is like, why aren't you listening to me? Probably because he or she is a kinesthetic learner and they just want to go out and do the activity. Or when a coach is demonstrating a skill and one player's already trying it, most likely they're going to be a kinesthetic learner as a preference. Of course, please also for your listeners, remember you're a combination of all four. So there's not one, it's not one way, it's just a primary preference. So a primary and a secondary preference, but of course, great coaches will cover all four bases as well, especially if they've got a squad of kids. So they might tell, they might show, then they'll get you to do it pretty quickly rather than telling war stories. Does that make sense to you, mate?
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How was it for you when you were growing up? How were you influenced by your parents and coaches?
I would love to. So, I very much I'm also like you, very kinesthetic, very visual learner, and so my parents first introduced me to tennis. And they from squash. So I had a tiny wooden squash racket, and then we moved over to tennis. And my dad's a scientist. So at one point, I mean, my dad's a little crazy, right? So he not crazy tennis parent crazy. Actually, no. Let's scrap all of what I just said. I take that all back. I love tennis parents actually. Once you understand what kind of learner they are, if as coach, especially coaches, any coaches listening, once you understand what the needs of the parents are, then you can deliver your message in that way to help parents, right? I was thinking crazy because my dad, anytime I missed the ball, he would go like this. He'd put his hands in his head like this. He'd go like that. So I gave him a strategy of chewing gum, right? So he had to bite down on the gum instead of putting his head in his hands, right? Worked a treat. If any parents out there not sure how to control your emotions when your child misses the easy forehand in the net, or long or wide, doesn't really matter. Practice chewing gum. But so he was this scientist, and so he would do things really out of the box, very, very kinesthetic, feel based. So, for example, on my backhand, he used to tie a jumper around my right arm, and so that my left arm was free and extended, because he was like, I think the top hand's, he didn't really know what he was doing, but he was like, I think the top hand's more important on the backhand, which with a Continental Eastern grip, it is 100% the most important hand, 60% driving that racket up and through. So he put this jump around my waist, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it was the feel that I got from understanding the top hand. I couldn't get, if someone just told me, use your top hand more. So I think, there's some interesting little things. And another little activity, it's called the OK symbol. And in fact, would you mind if I just share my screen, mate? And why don't I just show you the OK symbol backhand activity that my dad taught me? Does that sound cool to you? All right, so I'm going to show you. This is that's the podcast, the coaching podcast. All right, so this is inside the Kinesthetic Learning Academy. So let me just go to the, as you can see, I think there's 80 videos actually in it. But this one here is the one that I wanted to show you. So I'll click on, it's called the OK symbols. So this is one that my dad taught me. And let me just put it on the big screen. So can you see it? Give me thumbs up if you're with me, mate.
Yep. Got
Wonderful.
you.
Welcome to the Backhand series. This is tip number 2. Now, there are a number of different variations, combinations of the backhand grip. You've got Continental Eastern, you've got Continental Semi-Western, you've got Eastern Eastern, and of course, then there's the single-handed variations. So Hadley here's got a great Continental Eastern backhand grip, which means that his top hand is driving the racket about 60%. So what I'm going to get him to do is use the OK symbol. So he's going to place that at the bottom of the racket like so. So he really feels the racket like a hinge. It looks like this. So OK right at the bottom, I'm just checking it. And notice the backhand, the top hand is in the left-handed position. So if you're left-handed, your right hand would be obviously at the top of the grip. Nice and loose, nice and relaxed. It looks like this. So he's going out. He uses that left hand. Good. And really relax. Get that elbow almost in front of your chin. Perfect. One more. Right, now straight away transfer that onto the grip and feel the difference. Drive that top hand. Fantastic, Hadley. Good. That's tip number 2, the OK symbol.
I'll just stop. I just thought I'd show you a practical example straight away. But, you know, that's one that my dad taught me. So the OK symbol, after he took the jumper off, then you place your hands back on the racket so you can actually feel it. And then here's the thing that I think that you're going to like the most, mate, and that is you put it under pressure. So one thing that I don't see enough in coaching lessons, because I do a lot of work in coaching coaches how to coach, is that they'll do a kinesthetic drill, right, or a kinesthetic activity, a feel-based activity, and then they'll go and have a drink, right, and they'll, you know, like a drink of water, you know, and then they'll just come back and try it with the 2 hands. You've got about 8 seconds. I call it my 8-second rule. Okay, so use the jumper tie or the OK symbol on the backhand as an example. Then straight away, right, put the hand back on, and then straight away put it under pressure. Okay, so just got to make 5. Hit it in the net, -2, long or wide, -1. Let's go. Got to get to 5. You've got 1 minute, or whatever the standard of the player is. Okay, so that is really, really important. And I know, speaking earlier to you about your game, I think, you know, no matter how old you are, the mindset is so, so important to link that kinesthetic learning with the mindset and putting yourself under pressure, because, you know, I know that you're 14 and I'm a huge believer in falling in love with the battle of competition from as young as possible. So from especially orange stage, your red stage, it's your partner, and then orange stage, it's your partner that you're competing against, and then green stage, it's your opponent, and then yellow ball, which is where you are. Now it's like the battle. It's like the struggle is what we want to fall in love with from a mindset perspective. So, let's see how you went in understanding my coaching just then. So what are the 3 steps? I'm going to give you a little test here. See your beautiful listening skills. What are the 3 steps? So what do we do first?
First, we would do the OK sign. The OK sign.
Yep.
Okay, and then after the OK sign, then we would do the 2 hands.
Yep.
And then we would put it under pressure for like 8 seconds or something. Yeah.
No, within it. So you just got to make sure you don't take a break.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that's really cool. Well done. You did well. A lot of coaches wouldn't have got that. Do you know? I asked Roger Federer in 2014 what makes a great coach, and in 1 to a maximum of 3 words. And I've now asked all these amazing players like Patrick Mouratoglou, Serena's coach, and Judy Murray, famous, you know, coach, and they all say listening. So did you see how well you just listened? That was awesome. Well done. I hope all the little Mo listeners out there are listening to the importance of those 3 steps as it relates to kinesthetic learning. Was that useful?
Very
Great. Do you know what your grips are on your backhand?
Yeah, so I use a single-handed backhand, and
Okay.
I use an Eastern backhand grip.
Done. I love that. You did say technique was one of your strengths. So I love that. I love that you know that. So one of the things, the kinesthetic learning pieces of equipment we would use on a single-handed backhand is the on-court, off-court magnet master. So it's this piece of equipment that's attached like with a magnet, and so when you brush and you really separate your arms, it pops out. So on single-handed backhand, it's so important to stay more side on than the two-hander. So this magnet master helps you feel how to stay more side on and separate your arms, otherwise known as breaking out of jail, the handcuffs. Cue words is important as well with kinesthetic learning. So little cue words, but also for parents and coaches listening, ask your child how especially if they're kinesthetic learners, which a lot of them are, how it feels in 1 or 2 words. So, for example, let's take your backhand. When you stay side on and you really split and separate those arms, how does that feel to you in 1 or 2 words? What would you say?
It probably feels very satisfying, I would say.
Okay, so satisfying is the result. So keep exploring for me.
Okay.
So does it feel like stretch, or does it feel like lift? Does it feel like release, or what's a word that you when you do it right, not the outcome, what's the feeling when you do it?
When I'm doing it, I would probably say stay down and
Perfect.
accelerate.
Perfect. So 3 words. Okay, I might give you stay. I love stay. That's awesome. Like stay and accelerate. And I'd probably get you to think of another word for accelerate that's a bit shorter with less syllables. Accelerate is a 4-syllable word. So can you think of a word that means accelerate with only 1 or 2 syllables?
Fast.
Yeah. So stay and fast. Stay and fast. So you might do something, you might wear the magnet master with the 2 hands. Then remember, 8 seconds. Then you do your single-handed backhand, but using your words, stay and fast, stay and fast. Now, I don't want you thinking anything, and we put it under pressure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool little process. Do you want to look at another one, or does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Or let's talk about your serve. Tell me about your serve.
My serves, it's okay. I would say I could probably work on the consistency on the first one. On the second serve, my second serve is pretty consistent, but mainly consistency on the first serve. I would.
Okay. All right. Well, based on what you said, let's jump into the Kinesthetic Learning Academy again, and I'll just pop out of that one.
Okay, symbol.
All right. Sorry, we're just coming out of that one. Okay, I'm going to go back. And I'm going to pull up the one on, So let me just go to the serve. And we're going to go to this one. So this is called, we're just using spot markers here to actually feel where you need to make contact to get more consistent first serve, which is something that you just mentioned. How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds great.
All right, let's and it's got a little bit of a tip on the Continental grip as well, so we'll play that. All right.
Welcome to tip 3 of the serve series, here with the Start Right grip trainer. Now, if we look at hold the racket down level with the ground, this is bevel 1, bevel 2, and all I've done is I've wrapped it round using the Velcro, very easy to do, on bevel number 3. 1, 2, 3. That there sits in between my index finger and my middle finger to help what we call the trigger finger on the serve. So one of the common mistakes a lot of players make is they bunch their fingers. They sort of club and hammer the serve. Whereas straight away, just by using this fantastic piece of equipment, it puts my trigger finger up there. Now, what's the beauty of that? A, allows me to hold Continental. B, one of my favorite things about this piece of equipment is it actually allows me, and helps me with that trigger finger to turn my racket face. I'll just show you that again. The other thing I love about it is it allows me, as I'm driving up, to turn. Whereas if my fingers are bunched, it's a little harder and you end up sort of clubbering, sort of snapping versus that real turn, which is a great feature when you're learning how to use the Continental grip. So how does it look like with the ball? Well, nice and relaxed. Talking about that trigger finger and the direction of the serve. Well, we've got the 3 dots with on-court, off-court here, yellow, red, and green. And of course, a lot of people think you should move your ball toss from right to left. And yes, that can certainly help you learn how to hit slice. But if I want to serve the ball out wide, then simply by tossing the ball further forward as a right-hander on the juice court, that's going to allow me to help me serve it out wide. Okay, then the red dot, it's going to allow and help me to serve to the body. And then the green dot, if I toss it closer to me, that allows me to serve down the tee. And this, of course, helps me to turn that racket face at contact. And all.
So you get the idea there. And just while we're in here, I'm going to show you one more, and then let's talk about it, because that one certainly talks a lot about placement and the placement of the serve. So I'm just going to jump on my YouTube channel to show you this next one, so that your listeners can also just have a look at my YouTube channel. I have a gamification, so I have 8 levels on how to improve your ball. I call it a ball lift, not a toss. Right, lifting from the shoulder. See how that's a subtle feeling word, a subtle cue. But check out, this is one of my favorite all time. If your listeners struggles with their ball lift or their ball toss, this is one of my all time favorite activities. It's called the cone drop.
Inside a tube. So you set up your feet here in line with the tube at 12 o'clock. The arm comes out at 1, but the ball lifts back in at 12 o'clock. So it goes in like that, or see how that ball toss stayed out at 1 o'clock? So it looks like this. Almost there. Oh,
not that easy. I'm struggling.
Point. Or if it goes inside my hoop, you can score a point. That one was definitely online, so I've just got to let go of it a little bit earlier. Like so.
All right. So I'll just stop I'll stop my screen share there. So just to explain a couple of things. First of all, if you don't have an on-court, off-court start right grip trainer, you could even just use a pen, okay? So you could just put a pen on the second bevel to hold that grip like so. And this is, of course, a molded Continental grip racket. How cool is that? For kids learning how to use Continental grip, you actually just put your hand in here. This is for a little hand, of course, not my hand. But this is a great little racket called, this one's the Start Right, I think, Start Right racket. But you could just use a pen in between your index finger and your third finger on your regular racket to help with that stretch of the index finger. So you would have heard on the video, it helps you turn your racket face. You mentioned on your first serve, helping you with a more consistent direction. So let's see how well you listened, right, to the red, yellow, green. So did you understand with that video to help direct your serve wide body tee? Did you understand how the colours related to that?
Yeah.
Yeah? So let's go on the ad court. So that I showed on the juice court. So remember the red one was further out, okay? So that helped us serve out wide. So now let's go on the ad court. You tell me the same colours, red, yellow, green. Okay, and now we're serving onto the ad court. Are you right-handed? I forgot to ask. Okay, you're right-handed. So you're right-handed, you've got red, yellow, and green, and you want to serve it out wide. So which colour do you need to get your ball lift out to? What do you think?
If you want to go out wide on the ad side, I would say the green one.
Ah, double thumbs up. Now, not many people know that. Well done. Okay, so what do you think kinesthetically, okay, if you think about so you've got a visual, and some kinesthetic pieces of equipment are also visual because we've got red, yellow, and green, okay? But when I land, after each of those serves, what could I feel with my landing position to help me with my direction? What do you think?
You could probably feel, I would say, like the ground when on the way down. If you have a high enough jump, you'll be able to feel like the impact. I would say that's a good one.
Nice. And we do an activity called the triple hop. So after you serve it, you've got to hop 3 times on if you're right-handed, on your left leg, obviously the other way around if you were left-handed. And when you're hopping on the spot, you get to see and feel which color that you've landed, which relates to your ball location. And one more question for you, and maybe your listeners might find this interesting. Why do we shift the ball toss or the ball lift forwards and backwards and not side to side? Do you know?
I would probably say because it's easier to hit a flatter serve if it's on the right hand side than if you move it more to the left or more to the right. That would implicate like more spin or more slice.
Yeah. And what does it do for your opponent?
It lets them read your serve better.
There you go. I was Andre Agassi's book. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a very good read if anyone hasn't. Have you read it?
Some of it. I have not finished it. I read some of it.
Okay. And he used to try and he used to know where trying to remember whether it was whose serve was it? I think it was Courier. Anyway, Becker. Was it? Yeah, it was Becker. Boris Becker. And he used to just put his tongue to one side, and that's how he could read where the serve's going. So so why not just move your ball lift forwards and backwards to help with that? So pretty cool little way to not let your opponent know what you're thinking and feeling, of course. Cool. Do we want to look at some more, or where do you want to go from here, mate?
I was going to ask you another question. As a young coach, what were some of your experiences and how are they different from the way that you teach today?
Oh, thank you for asking me that. So I would say that 100% I talk too much. I was also a bit like that coach I was telling earlier. But I was so passionate. I had all this knowledge in my head, but I didn't really know how to structure the knowledge. So I just wanted, every time I would coach, I wanted to give you everything that I knew. Like, here it is. This is how you move. This is how you turn. This is what you should be thinking. And it was just way, way too much information. And I think that I honestly didn't have enough tools on how to teach different learning styles and different ways of teaching. I pretty much taught the way that I learned. Mm-hmm. So that's also why I love kinesthetic learning so much, of course, because that's what worked best for me. But not everyone is a kinesthetic learner, so that's the flip side. But what it's done for me now in what I call chapter 2, although maybe I've had a few more chapters than that, but don't tell anyone, right? Wink, wink. But essentially now I say a lot less. And I have what I call the power of the pause. So as a coach, sometimes we want to say something and like we want to, the points, like there's been an amazing point and then someone's maybe missed that last shot and we focus on that last shot. So now I think I live activities, a lot more wisdom. I have been coaching for 30 years. So I take a little bit more time to say, what is the most important question here? And chapter 1 was all about statements. I was just going to tell you what to do. And chapter 2, I'd say 75% of my language is helping you unlock the learning within yourself. Because imagine, we spoke about enjoying the battle of competition earlier, right? So imagine when you're in the heat of the battle, okay, and you have to problem solve your way out of a match, okay? You're there, you're in the trenches, and let's say I've always just told you what to do. I've just told you how to figure it out. I just told you to hit it here because can't you see that he's tall and he can't stretch wide on the backhand? So, but why can't you see that? Because often coaches with the way that they teach is too direct. So one thing I try and help coaches with is become more indirect to unlock the learning that lives within you. And kinesthetic learning is perfect because kinesthetic learning, you say nothing. You basically, like if I want you to feel your hips rotating, let's go to a forehand activity.